This is Eagle News Canada. I'm Lua Kino and here are this week's top stories. Russia's Putin says de facto conditions have been created to end the Syrian civil war. U.S. scholars and politicians speak highly of China in U.S. social and cultural dialogue mechanism. European Union Verhofstadt pokes fun at Theresa May but says a Brexit deal can be done. Now for the details. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Thursday that the de facto conditions needed to end Syria's civil war had been achieved. Here's Anne Salmerano with the details.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said the de facto conditions needed to end Syria's civil war had been created.
Безусловно, обсудили ситуацию в связи с состоявшимся в иракском Курдистане референдуме о независимости. Принципиальная позиция России известна, она изложена в заявлении Министерства иностранных дел Российской Федерации. Сегодня мы подробно об этом с господином президентом тоже говорили.
Putin's comments, which followed talks with Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara, come as Russia, Turkey, and Iran cooperate on maintaining de-escalation zones in Syria. Putin said he had discussed in detail with his Turkish counterpart a referendum in which Iraqi Kurds backed independence from Baghdad. The Russian president did not set out his view on the referendum. He said instead that Russia's position was long established and had been expressed in a Russian foreign ministry statement on the issue. Erdogan said Iraq's Kurdish government made a big mistake by holding the referendum and must be prevented from bigger mistakes. He said Turkey and Russia agreed the territorial integrity of Iraq and Syria must be preserved.
Referandum sonrası hassas dönemde özellikle Irak bölgesel yönetiminin daha vahim hatalar yapmasının önüne geçmemiz gerekiyor. Uluslararası toplumun Irak'ın toprak bütünlüğü ve siyasi birliğinden yana tavır alması büyük önem arz ediyor.
Reporting for Eagle News, I am Anne Salmerano, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Anne. U.S. scholars and politicians discussed the first social and cultural dialogue between China and the United States. Rosalie Castro reports.
According to U.S. scholars and politicians, social and cultural dialogue is an important platform to develop soft diplomacy and promote communication between China and the United States. China and the United States held their first social and cultural dialogue on Thursday in Washington, D.C., co-chaired by Chinese Vice Premier Liu Yandong and U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Many U.S. scholars and politicians attended the event and spoke highly of the mechanism.
No, this is one of the four dialogues that President Trump and President Xi agreed to during their first meeting in Mar-a-Lago back in April. And so it's an opportunity for both of our governments to talk about continued progress in that space.
China and the United States agreed to set up 4 high-level dialogue mechanisms covering diplomacy and security, economy, law enforcement, and cybersecurity, as well as social and people-to-people exchanges during the meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago Resort in Florida in April. The 4 mechanisms shoulder the important mission to enhance high-level exchanges, understanding and trust, and promote win-win cooperation between the two countries.
A lot of attention has been placed to the other dialogues, the economic dialogue, security dialogue. They get a lot of the attention. But the people-to-people dialogue is perhaps one of the most important in the long run. There's not a great deal of understanding as much as there should be between the two peoples. So in the long term, that is the most important factor in the relationship, that people understand each other's culture.
Reporting for Eagle News, I am Rosalie Castro, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Rosalie. European Union's Verhofstadt pokes fun at Theresa May but says a Brexit deal can be done. Amy Plamenko with the details.
The lead Brexit negotiator for the European Parliament poked fun at British Prime Minister Theresa May on Thursday, quipping that she gave her Brexit speech in Florence because she was familiar with the city's 15th century politics of betrayal.
I think she chose Florence because Florentine politics in the 15th century made her feel at home, I think. You know, backstabbing. You know, backstabbing, betrayal, noble families fighting for power, and so on and so on. So I think that it is an environment that she recognized very well.
In a speech to students at the London School of Economics, Guy Verhofstadt said Brexit was negative and a waste of time and energy, though he also said Britain's decision to leave the bloc was a failure for the European Union. He said the one positive outcome of Brexit was that the mood in the EU had reversed since Britain's vote to leave in June 2016, and that now many EU citizens did not want to destroy the Union.
Since Brexit, I see that the mood has reversed. That in fact, in a certain way, the European Union regained popularity. Note that people are less critical now towards the Union, I should say, on the contrary, but they want to reform Europe, not to leave Europe, not to destroy it.
After what he termed the failure of Brexit, Verhofstadt said the EU needed a major overhaul to give the Eurozone a government with its own fiscal capacity and its own Treasury and Finance Minister. Reporting for Eagle News, I'm Amy Flamenco, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Amy. Coming up, Britain's Prince Harry awards the first 2017 Invictus Games medals. Canadian aerospace firm Bombardier awaits ruling over a trade dispute with its U.S. rival Boeing. NHL is pleased with first step in China. Eagle News Canada will be back shortly. Welcome back. This is Eagle News Canada. Britain's Prince Harry awarded the first 2017 Invictus Games medals in Toronto, Ashley Sakmar reports.
Britain's Prince Harry awarded the first 2017 Invictus Games medals on Saturday, September 23 in Toronto, Canada, to the winners of the Jaguar Land Rover Driving Challenge. Britain's Prince Harry awarded the first 2017 Invictus Games medals on Saturday in Toronto, Canada, to the winners of the Jaguar Land Rover Driving Challenge. Competitors from the Netherlands, UK, and Denmark received gold, silver, and bronze medals respectively from Prince Harry, founder and patron of the event, which he started 3 years ago. After being driven around the main racetrack by German team member Dennis Seising, Prince Harry also went for a spin in the miniature Land Rover Defender, driven by 5-year-old Demi Gommers, the daughter of Dutch Invictus competitor Paul Gommers. The international adaptive sporting event for wounded, ill, and injured servicemen, servicewomen, and veterans includes archery, athletics, cycling, inter-rowing, powerlifting, sitting volleyball, swimming, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, wheelchair tennis, and for the first time, golf. The games have been held twice before, in London in 2014 and in Orlando, Florida in 2016. More than 550 competitors will take part in the competition in Toronto from September 23rd to the 30th. The name Invictus means unconquered in Latin and symbolizes the way that sport can help wounded soldiers overcome trauma suffered in combat. Reporting from Toronto, Canada, my name is Ashley Sakmar and I am 1 with 25. Thank you, Ashley. Canadian aerospace firm Bombardier is set to find out whether it will be a hit with financial penalties on Tuesday when the result of a trade dispute with its rival Boeing is released. Boeing, which lodged the complaint in April, accuses Bombardier of receiving unfair state subsidies from the UK and Canada.
You actually look at the history of what's gone on here. I think there's an element of protectionism in Boeing's stance with respect to this. Certainly if you look at the history, yes, there certainly was some government involvement in shoring up Bombardier's finances, but to me it's no different to the way that the US government bailed out GM, General Motors, and ultimately I think this is really Boeing's attempt to try and undermine a contract that ultimately went to the lowest bidder.
The U.S. company claims that Bombardier is selling its C-Series jets below cost in the United States. British Prime Minister Theresa May has said the trade challenge could endanger thousands of Bombardier aerospace jobs in Northern Ireland, which is the single largest manufacturing employer in the region.
We saw it in the case of General Motors in the US. They received a government bailout, and ultimately we've seen it in the case of Bombardier with the Quebec government and the UK government injecting £135 million into the plant in Belfast. And it needs to be said in that context, and I think it's very, very dangerous if we start going down this road where you've got one party saying, well, you're indulging in protectionism, while at the same time the other party levels the same charge.
About 1,000 jobs in Northern Ireland are linked to the development of C-Series jets. May's minority Conservative government depends on backing from the small Northern Irish Democratic Unionist Party for their major control of the British Parliament. The National Hockey League China Games came to a close in Beijing. Anthony Sevilla for the report.
The National Hockey League China Games came to a close in Beijing on Saturday with a victory from the Los Angeles Kings over the Vancouver Canucks 4-3. But much of the attention before this preseason friendly focused on the NHL's efforts to expand in China. Players, coaches, and the NHL Deputy Commissioner, Bill Daly, all spoke positively about this year's events. But Daly admitted that the world's most popular ice hockey league is yet to make a decision on whether or not to return next year. NHL signed a deal to hold 2 preseason friendly games in 6 of the next 8 years.
Obviously, we've learned things. This is the first time, this is our first time in China. We've learned some things with respect to these 2 games, what we did well, what we can do better, and what we shouldn't do again. And obviously, as we move forward, we're going to apply what we've learned and build. You know, this Rome isn't built in a day. As I said, we were very pleased with the results in Shanghai. We expect to be pleased with the results this afternoon. And looking back on this, we'll think it's a good first step for greater influence in China.
Elsewhere, Daly admitted that expanding the game in China would take time, but he said the league was ready to invest it over the long term. There is currently no organized league in China, and the country languishes in the lower tiers of the International Ice Hockey Federation, with plans to build hundreds of hockey arenas and set up grassroots programs ahead of the 2022 Olympics. The NHL sees China as ready to do the heavy lifting to grow the sport, something Japan did not do before the 1998 Nagano Winter Games. The NHL is the latest major sports league, hoping to tap China and its 1.3 billion person market, following European soccer teams and the National Basketball Association, which are highly popular in the country. I am Anthony Sevilla, reporting for Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Anthony. Coming up, Jay Suarez takes us to the Mexican Festival in Vancouver, BC. Arnie Aquino takes us to the largest Filipino festival in Toronto, Canada. That's next. Eagle News Canada will be right back. Welcome back. This is Eagle News Canada. Jay Suarez takes us to the Mexican Festival in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Mexico Fest 2017 brings the festivities to Vancouver for the 207th anniversary of the Declaration of Mexico's independence. This free event showcases different aspects of the Mexican culture, such as music, art, and cuisine. This year, the Mexico Fest 2017 was held in Robson Street at the heart of downtown Vancouver. The UBC Robson Square was transformed into a mini Mexico, and those who were able to come were able to experience and enjoy the diversity and richness of the Mexican culture. One of the main attractions of this event was Outdoor Market, where the guests were able to enjoy Mexican staples such as tacos, tortas, and elotes. indulge in sweet treats like horchata, pastries, and churros, sip on aguas frescas, and purchase Mexican-inspired dried goods and produce. As an addition to the food items, the different stalls in the market also featured Mexican-inspired clothing, jewelry, and other items. Many came to take part in this immersive Mexican culture experience. So if you like Mexican culture and Mexican food and music, you will definitely take pleasure in this event. Reporting for Eagle News, I am Jay Suarez, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Jay. Next, Arnie Aquino will take us to the largest Filipino festival in the Toronto area. Let's see what the Taste of Manila has to offer.
Every summer here at the corner of Bathurst and Wilson at the Greater Toronto area, the only Filipino street festival takes place, the Taste of Manila.
This event draws in different people of different cultures to experience a feel of the Philippines without having to actually travel to the Southeast Asian country.
Basically, I guess, we have a lot of food to offer, like the finger foods, the kwek-kwek, the fishball, we have lechon as well, we have rides, we have entertainers, and a lot of our politicians or dignitaries are coming.
Every year, this corner is filled with everything Filipino, from delicacies to authentic culinary delights to products that come only from the Philippines.
There's almost over 1 million Filipinos in Canada, and I believe in Greater Toronto area there's about 300 Filipinos. So we just wanted to feel that we are at home, right? We are in Manila, but not just in Manila, but we are in the Philippines. So that's why we are bringing entertainers, we are bringing Filipino food, we are bringing Filipino entertainment and Filipino dignitaries to kind of at least for this weekend they would feel that they are actually in Manila or in the Philippines.
Filipino cuisine and entertainment attracts not only citizens in the neighborhood, but has also caught the attention of government officials. Last year, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne both dropped by to join the fun.
And so how did you go about inviting dignitaries out to this event?
It's actually very funny because sometimes we don't even invite them, they invite themselves. They ask us to be invited because they know that it's a huge market. They know that it's a huge, there's a lot of people actually coming in. So that's why they wanted to be involved, they wanted to be acknowledged, and then they wanted to be part of it.
Having launched in 2014, Taste of Manila has reaped outstanding recognition. In fact, it has been awarded as the third largest festival in the Greater Toronto area to date.
Taste of Manila brings friends, families, and acquaintances together, may they be Filipino or not, to celebrate the fun-loving culture before summer ends. From the Taste of Manila in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, I am Arnie Aquino. I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Arnie. That is Eagle News Canada. Join us next week. Visit our website at Eaglenews.PH. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. I am Lou Aquino. I am 1 with 25. See you next week.